This is Paul McGann, and you're listening to the Five-ish Fangirls Podcast.
The tangents and squeak continue all the way to episode number 52 of the Five-ish Fangirls Podcast. When this baby gets up to 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious stuff. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls Podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like we do every week by going around the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Brittany in Belvedere.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Mitch in Kitchener, Ontario.
This is Chauncey in Indianapolis.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis. Hello.
Hello.
Holly did not change.
Hi.
She didn't move.
She didn't move, and she did not get testosterone treatments. Sorry, Holly. There was an opportunity. I'd take it. Anyway, no, Holly had stuff pop up, family stuff pop up, so she is bowed out this week, but she says hello. But we do have a substitute we've had before. My husband.
Yes, I am here today.
Chauncey.
Excited.
He's excited. He's very excited. I think we're all excited about this week's particular topic.
This is going to be a good one. And Chauncey was going to come anyway, so it's,
Yeah.
Yep.
But he made us five today. It's not five-ish.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he wants to be called a fangirl.
He's a fan something.
I'm a fan of the Five-ish Fangirls.
Yeah.
There you go.
Big
I like
blush.
it.
Alrighty, so let's get going on this with the news. It's light news week, just because everybody is gearing up for Fandom Christmas, which is coming soon. So very, very soon. I'm very excited. Alright, so first up in news, we have a title and our first image for the new Star Trek movie. Director Justin Lin revealed that the movie will be called Star Trek Beyond.
And there's actually a colon in this title.
Yeah.
Instead of last time it was Star Trek Into Darkness, and there wasn't a colon, and everybody was freaking out about it.
Yeah. Oh, and then the
grammar police.
Yeah, the grammar police. Oh, where's the colon? He broke the news on that, and then also released an image from the film set, and it is a close-up of a Starfleet uniform, and it's the patch with the Starfleet insignia on the sleeve, which shows the logo for the United Federation of Planets. So they are on set, in costume. It is in production, due out next year. I forget the date. But sometime next year. I have it written down, just not right in front of me.
We'll talk about it when it gets closer.
Yeah. So, for all the Star Trek fans, I guess depending on how you feel about the new movies, yay or nah.
The first one was good, and the second one was good too. Just they recycled.
Wrath of Khan.
They recycled Wrath of Khan and didn't really tell anybody about it. Or didn't anyway. Yeah. That's another topic for another time. Yeah. I thought it was fine, but at the time
I've liked them for what they are.
I hadn't seen Wrath of Khan. I know I'm a terrible person, but then I saw Wrath of Khan later. I'm like, yeah, that one's better.
Yeah.
Even though I do like Benedict Cumberbatch, but anyway, we won't go into that.
Yeah. So I like them. I like them well enough. They're not like, oh my god, amazing, but I like them well enough as someone that grew up on Star Trek. So I appreciate them for what they are. But
yeah.
J.J. Abrams is off.
That's about the best you can do.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams is off doing other things with the word star in them, so. We'll see how this guy does in his place.
Yeah. Someone was saying for basically J.J. Abrams' audition film to direct Star Wars. I can't remember. I don't know if it was on his trailers or CinemaSins. Somebody did a video about that, and or they mentioned it, so it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's Star Trek. Our next bit of news is Once Upon a Time, and I didn't expect to get these images so soon. They've actually released 2 promotional images of Dark Swan. It's Emma as the Dark One. And I'm very pleased to the Rumpelstiltskin gold fleck
glittery face
for her. Yeah, the glittery face. Because I kept thinking, I'm like, are they going to do that? Because they've done that. They did that with Rumpelstiltskin, and they did that one with the Dark One before Rumpel. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like that look on Emma, but maybe they'll make it look good. And they've managed to do it more. I kind of like that she's not.
She looks like she's stepped out of the Matrix.
Yeah, I think, yeah. But it's still like, her leather jacket and boots look, but it's more severe.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's Emma, but it's very different.
Yeah.
And one of these pictures, I have no idea if this is an indicator of what her appearance as the Dark One, as the Dark Swan, is going to be in the episode. But there's one that she's standing on she's on the counter at Granny's. Mm-hmm. She's got the dagger in one hand, and the black smoky stuff is trailing kind of behind her, like she's just appearing out of the black smoke. So I wonder if there's she's going to reappear in Storybrooke briefly, although they left the dagger behind for, I don't know. So anyway, so that's just kind of a theory I have. And then her other picture is she looks like she's sitting on a cot in a cave or something. But yeah, so it's like her hair's pulled back in a bun. She's got the black leather look, and she's looking very scary, but still herself in a way.
Which I think is an indicator of how the character is going to be, because I think that the first Dark One and Rumpel as the Dark One, it was that drastic physical change, because at least in Rumpel's case, he was so corruptible to begin with. Unlike Emma, who is the savior and has an extreme version of light magic within her, that the Dark One's powers are probably struggling to take her over, and therefore you're not getting that drastic physical change. So.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I wonder if that's going to be part of her story is going to be the light side and the dark side at war within herself. So it'll be it'll be interesting. And so they had a little short interview with Eddie and Adam. Yeah, they were both there, and they were just kind of teasing what they're going to be exploring and be doing, and they said the quest for Merlin is the quest to free Emma, and so the twist is that they'll require a new savior to come forward, and the article speculates that will be Regina. I don't know about that, but maybe. I mean, they gotta have something for her to do, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, I just was intrigued that they released the pictures of Dark One Emma so soon. I thought that'd be something they'd wait for a while to show.
Are they going to have a panel at San Diego?
They are going to have a panel. I don't know where, what day it's going to be.
Yeah. Maybe they wanted to get those images out and start whetting people's appetites before the panel.
Yeah, and they did film a special teaser video specifically for San Diego before they broke for their summer break.
Yeah.
That has Dark Emma in the little clip. So maybe that's probably what some of this is from.
Yeah.
Possibly. So yeah, I didn't think we were going to see it before San Diego, but apparently there it is, and it's all official, and so we will see. I mean, it's Emma, but it's not Emma. It's going to be interesting how this goes.
I like our name better than the Dark Savior. I don't like Dark Swan.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they're trying to play too much to the pun. Dark One, Dark Swan. I'm like, do Dark Savior. That is better.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if that'll catch on now that I'm going to stick with Dark
Use
Savior.
that hashtag. Get it trending.
The power of social media. Let's do it.
All right. Moving on.
Anyway, moving on to, we have an official title for the second Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn has confirmed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 as the official title to the Guardians of the Galaxy sequel. Gunn made the announcement on his Facebook page earlier today, saying that he could make the official reveal following Kevin Feige's accidental reveal during Ant-Man interviews. The title seems to be a reference to the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, Awesome Mix Volume 1, in the tease Awesome Mix Volume 2 that appeared at the film's end. Gunn, who directed 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy, will return to write and direct Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It is scheduled to hit theaters on May 5th, 2017.
How long till we get Awesome Mix Volume 2?
I don't know, but as soon as it comes out, I'm buying it. But I kind of like it because, it's a comic book movie, and Volume 2, I don't know, I like it.
Yeah, it works on a number of levels.
Yeah.
Yes.
It does. Very clever. I like it.
Yay!
Yay! I love getting Marvel news. It just makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Me too.
Marvel, don't stop.
And Ant-Man's coming out soon, and I think it's kind of getting lost in all this shuffle, but...
Yeah. The Marvel, they keep posting, pictures and teasers and stuff that's on the TV. I'm like, no, we have, less than 2 weeks to go, no! I don't want to see anymore.
Spoilers. Oh, yeah.
Potential for spoilers, no!
I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe this is just me, but I'm like, why did they release it so soon after Avengers? Why didn't they save this one for in the fall?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's like
maybe it's because we have the Netflix series that'll hopefully garner people's attention.
Maybe. I don't know. It just seemed like they.
I'm sure it fits into the timeline with the movies and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So.
Okay. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
It just seems like this one's getting ignored because we had that whole big Avengers blowout in May, and now it's like, oh, and by the way, here's Ant-Man.
Yeah.
And it's not as big and showy, but I don't want this to fall under the radar.
Yeah.
I don't want any of them to fall under the radar. Yeah. So I want them all to do well.
I think it kind of falls.
It's not up to me.
Yeah, it kind of falls into the Guardians of the Galaxy. That you had the Avengers and Captain America, Winter Soldier, which just blew everything to bits, and then you get Guardians of the Galaxy, which at this point is not really related. Except Thanos, and
it will be.
You got Thanos and an Infinity Stone that's like your bridge between the two at this point. But then Guardians was like it blew up. So I'm going into Ant-Man with the same expectations I had for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay. I mean, it seems to, from the trailers and stuff, it seems to have that same brand of humor.
Yes. A
little bit. It doesn't take itself too seriously. At the same time, there is going to be a story and interesting characters, and it'll be fun. So I'm looking forward to that aspect of it.
Stanley cameo.
I don't know when I'll get to see it. Because that's the week my brother's getting married, but I'll figure something out. Personal problems, right?
Yeah.
If I can get the timing right, I might go see it the midnight. I very rarely go to midnight showings because I can't. But maybe this timing, if I can get to the movie theater in a half hour from where I walk. Oh well.
There you go.
Planning, which I can do later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
Anyway.
Moving on
to the July Traveling the Vortex book club book
is The Roundheads by Mark Gatiss.
Which is a second Doctor story, apparently.
Second Doctor. It was recently republished as part of the history collection, so it should be widely available. So...
Sweet.
And I had an opportunity to purchase it earlier because I went to see Terminator Genesis
Again.
Well, I went to see it on Wednesday with my dad, and then I went to see it again on Thursday by myself. And the movie theater I went to has chapters like right there, like same parking lot. So I figured I'd go over and take a look. And I bought a bunch of books, and The Roundheads was there. I could have bought it, but I chose not to.
And now you're paying for it.
Yeah.
And now I'm wishing I had got it. Oh, well. I'm thinking of going to see Inside Out sometime this week, so... If I go to that theater, I can pick it up then.
Yeah. I did see Inside Out last week.
I haven't seen it yet, so la la la
Yeah.
la la la.
Yeah.
No spoilers, but you should.
I'm not
Oh,
gonna,
yeah.
I won't say spoilers.
Yeah. My mom even went and saw it, and she does not go to the movie theater.
Oh,
So,
wow.
That tells you how far behind I am. She went and saw Frozen before I did.
I will
finally got
say
to
this,
see the
it
Star
is-
Wars trailer in theaters.
Sweet.
My second
Still have not
viewing
gotten to that.
Neither
my
have
second
I.
viewing of
Y'all are going to the
Terminator
wrong
Genesis
theater.
had the Star Wars trailer as part of the trailers beforehand.
Nice.
So I finally
I still
got to
haven't
see it in theaters.
Chewie.
3D, big screen. It was
Oh, you're making me jealous. I still haven't seen the Star Wars trailer on big screen, and I've seen Avengers twice, Jurassic World twice, I've seen Inside Out, I've seen a bunch of other stuff that I can't remember right now, and I don't know what the deal is with my local movie theaters. I gotta
You
go
would
with
think half
with
of
them.
at least Avengers and Inside Out, seeing how the old...
Disney?
Well,
Yeah.
Avengers was supposed to have it, and that's what I was so annoyed about.
Well,
Two
I
times.
didn't get it
At
on
two different
Avengers,
theaters,
but I
even.
did get it on
Jeez.
Terminator Genesis 3D.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess I need to go see Terminator then.
Well, I
You
didn't get...
should.
When I went to
You
see Terminator, I didn't see it. I was like...
Yeah, okay.
Huh.
Y'all just living in the wrong spots.
Feel like we need to move
We're
to
going
I guess
Canada.
so.
We're
I don't.
going to the wrong showings of whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know how they
Because
decide
apparently
this.
they're
but-
only putting it on select showings of select movies.
Well,
Oh.
Why would they do that?
I don't
I don't know, but apparently they are.
They want you to
Dear
roll the dice
Theo-
and spend money.
Dear theater
Dear movie
managers,
theater.
please explain your trailer logic to us. You can email us at...
Yeah. Please explain this because I don't get it, and I'm really annoyed about it.
It
So-
should be in front of every movie because everyone wants to see it. No matter what other movie they see, they want the Star Wars.
But I can
Yeah.
see the trailer for Everest 500 times. Thank you. Jeez.
I have a cool story for you guys since you mentioned Inside Out, and this is hopefully Rachel's already heard this, but hopefully it's not too long for you. But it'll loop back to Inside Out. So I was in California a couple weeks ago, and one of the guys I work with, he was like, we had a Friday meeting canceled, so we had like a whole day to kill, and we were in San Francisco, and I was like, let's go up to Marin County and let's go sightsee, and one of the guys I work with is like, hey, drop me off at my friend Dave's house. He lives up there, and I want to eat lunch with him, blah, blah, blah. We're like, okay. Hops in the car. We drive. It's like 45 minutes. Once we get around that area, I start asking him, so who is this guy? Because we're I don't know if anybody's been to Marin County. I didn't realize what it was. This is just this amazing place in San Francisco with like almost like redwood trees and mountains and stuff, and it just looks beautiful, and mansions and stuff. And I'm like, we go right past Skywalker Ranch, and I'm like, holy crap. And we get to this guy's house, and we get to this Dave's house, and Bill goes, yeah, he did work with the Muppets. We're like, oh, okay. Is he like a production guy? And he didn't explain. And we got to this guy's house, and it was Dave Goles. He comes walking out, and I don't know if any of you guys know.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Yes. When you said Dave and Muppets, I'm like, I wonder if it's Dave Gold. When you said that, I was like, oh yeah.
So we get out, and I'm shaking, because I'm like, oh my god, I know this guy, but I don't know exactly everything about him. I wanted to Wikipedia him right there, but I'm standing in his driveway, and he invites us in, and that makes me even more nervous. And we go inside and talking, and then the conversation turned towards Inside Out. He goes like, "You guys seen it yet?" And I'm like, I don't even think it's in theaters yet. He's like, "Oh yeah, sorry." And Bill's like, "Well, would you already see it?" He's like, "Yeah, I went to the premiere." He's like, "Me and Frank Oz are in it," and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, when the credits were rolling and I was seeing it, and I was like, "Frank Oz is in this," and I realized who they were. I won't say who they are, but yeah, they're in it.
Yeah, he said they're like security guards or something. I still haven't seen it.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's just they're just a little. You don't really notice it until like I said, I saw it on the credits, and yep, that was them. So I want to go back and see it and pick it out. But yeah, Inside Out was so good. But yeah, I will say tissues.
Oh yes, I was emotional, which is appropriate.
That's just part of the course of Pixar.
That's what I hear. It's supposed to like hit every emotion and
Literally
make you feel everywhere.
Literally hits every emotion.
What if feelings had
feelings?
Yeah. Well, I've heard there's a theory based on the gender presentation of Riley's emotions that she's actually genderqueer. Because her mom's emotions are all female presenting, her dad's emotions are all male presenting, but she's got a mix.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah, Pixar people, man, they're
like
deep.
Joy and sadness and disgust are all female, but fear and anger are male.
Well, we kind of discussed this when after I saw the movie, and we were kind of like talking about it, and I was like, because like you said, her mom's emotions, and they all look like her mom, and her dad's emotions all look like her dad, and then you see some other people that same way. I'm trying to dodge spoilers, but
Thank you.
That was actually in one of the trailers. But so this is kind of our theory, is that because Riley is still a kid, because there were some other adults that had that that they showed that, and they all look like the person that the emotions belong to, but because Riley is still a kid and she's not emotionally mature yet, then she still has that, they're not, her emotions aren't
they're fluid
set or stable or her personality isn't. What am I trying to say? I don't know.
It's still developing.
She's still developing. Thank you.
Yeah.
My brain. Anyway, so that was kind of what we thought when we were leaving the movie theater. But
okay, I have to go see
I
it
don't know.
now.
Could be either way, and you speculate however you want. But anyway, it is a good movie. So if you haven't seen it yet, go see it.
It's on my list.
It's fun.
Yeah, mine too.
It's funny and cute, and you relate to it, and it tugs at all the heartstrings. And you will laugh though. You will laugh throughout it, and then you'll cry, and then you'll just be happy.
So pretty much every Pixar movie. So, but
Pretty much.
Yep. Of course, I cried at Cars, so I know that's not everybody's favorite Pixar movie, but I love it.
Really? I love Cars.
I do too, but
I'm surprised I still like it because I babysit a 2-year-old and he loved Cars, so I put it on like every day for his nap. So I know that movie by heart, and it's still one of my favorites, even though I watch it every day.
We're gonna have to discuss Pixar at some point. I think it's down the line. I think we have like a milestone that they're hitting this year. So it's on the list of things to discuss. So we'll get there. So, but anyway, moving on, because I know some people are on tenterhooks about this. We did reach.
Thank you for entering the giveaway.
Yeah.
Whoever's out.
Yeah, all 5 people.
I don't know who they are, but Rachel got so.
Yeah. So I have my trusty hat with the slips of paper in it. I printed off everybody's tweet and cut them into strips, and they're all in here. So I will draw the winner. And Chauncey's one of them, so if his name gets drawn, it's going back in.
Hey.
You said you didn't want the prize.
I know. I just wanted to give you that reaction.
Yeah. Okay. And everyone's entry was really good. So everyone's response to our prom.
Should we read them out after you draw the winner?
Yeah, we'll read over. Okay, I got one here. Hopefully it's not yours. Chauncey. Nope, not Chauncey.
Oh, man.
The winner of our first anniversary and not a brand new car because we can't afford one, Glenn!
Woohoo!
Yay! Glenn!
Glenn said, I would most want to have dinner with the doctor. Any incarnation, perhaps all at once.
Nice.
Well, that'd be cool.
Let's see here. Let's see. Other entries. Who Brannigan said he would like to have dinner with William Shatner.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Chauncey said he would choose to have dinner with Tony Stark.
Of course. Because I am Iron Man.
Yeah. Keith said he would like to have dinner with Mal from Firefly.
That's a good one.
Good choice.
One of our new followers, I think that we picked up after I went to Indie PopCon, Josh said he would like to have dinner with Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart.
Hey,
He's-
count the card, why not? And then Sean said, how about dinner with Prince Voltan, Brian Blessed? Think of the stories.
Is that a Doctor Who character?
I don't know if you.
Well, Brian Blessed was on Doctor Who at one point, but he was also in Flash Gordon.
Prince.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's his character in Flash Gordon. Although in that movie, he is just one of the crowd. He's not even the hammiest guy on the set, which says something about the movie Flash Gordon.
Yep.
I was gonna try that, but I can't. We need
Dive!
Dive!
Yeah.
Going into the live?
Yeah.
There, that is my best
Yeah.
Brian Blessed in Flash Gordon impression. And Sean is hanging his head in shame and
Probably.
shaking, going,
So,
like, what? It's like, I have not trained you very well. And I just say, you didn't train me at all, dude.
so congratulations to Glenn
Yay, Glenn.
for being our winner.
And thank you all
What did he
for
win?
entering our giveaway and having fun.
Do you want to announce what's in the prize package?
No, it's going to be a surprise.
Oh, okay.
He's just going to have to wait on tenterhooks.
I'd be
but
scared, Glenn.
I have a met.
Dude,
I
Listeners will have to probably go
I-
over to Traveling the Vortex and listen to them when Glenn.
gets it.
But
Yeah.
Glenn will probably.
I'll send it and I'll put on there. Do not open till recording.
When you receives it.
Yeah.
So,
I'll pull a Marty McFly and put on there. Do not open till recording.
Till 1985.
Yeah. Do not open till 1985. So. I think with some of the prizes though, I think that the prizes may get divided between Glenn and Glenn's children.
Hey, that's okay. He won, so he is free to do with them as he pleases.
That
so
is-
if he
that
wants
is-
to give away to others.
Yep.
That is his prerogative.
Yep. That is. So yay! Thank you.
And if Glenn's kids are listening, make your dad share.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. yeah.
So,
Oh, I just looked up and Flash Gordon is on Netflix.
no.
I can't watch it right now.
No, you can't watch it right now.
Watch it later. Watch it later.
I know. I'll watch it later, but it is on Netflix for when I do want to watch
Sweet.
it. When I can watch it.
I was gonna say, oh, it's on Netflix. I can watch it. Like, wait a second, I have it on iTunes. I forgot about that. I bought it when we did that Flicks for Friends.
I haven't seen it yet. But if it's on Netflix, hey, now I can watch it. So sweet. Yay.
Well,
Uh,
if it's on American Netflix, because I just checked Canadian Netflix.
Well, yeah.
But
We've had that discussion.
It probably is, but You might want to double check.
I will double check
before you
later.
get your hopes up.
Yeah.
And anyway,
Anyway, so yay, Glenn, and yay, thank you for everyone that entered. So we will. This
we'll just
one.
celebrate our first birthday in
Yeah.
style.
Our first giveaway, but not our last. So
Keep
we'll
listening, and
keep listening, and we'll find reasons to give away stuff.
I like how we celebrate our birthday by giving out gifts. It's very Harvardish of us.
yes, it is.
Well, you know.
Oh, Flash Gordon is not on American Netflix.
Oh,
Uh,
darn you, Netflix! You let me
Sport
down.
titles related. Yeah, old school Battlestar Galactica is here though, and Arrow. But anyway, we'll
Yeah.
save that for another time.
If it's on iTunes, I can get it on iTunes. Anyway, so the reason we're all here, speaking of 1985, that was a very strange
Take me
segue,
away.
but segue. And the reason Chauncey's here, not just because he's a nice change of pace. Yeah.
Sorry.
Copyright. Huey Lewis. No. He is involved. So, as of we're recording, it is July 5th. So 2 days ago, July 3rd, was the 30th anniversary of the release of Back to the Future.
Back to the future!
Future.
I was 2 when this movie came out.
I was not quite 2 months. This was actually the very first movie that my parents took me to in the theaters. Obviously, I do not remember seeing it in theaters.
I don't think my parents
But
were even together.
Yeah, you're young.
Same here.
But,
These
yeah,
young
I have-
people.
I have grown
Like
up.
86 or
See what I'm working
87?
with here?
I have grown up on this trilogy.
So,
This is like
Yeah. Chrissy got on her soapbox about this last week, actually.
I did. I remember
Yes,
that.
she
And when we
did.
were talking about
People.
doing this as a topic, I'm like, man, I should have saved my rant for this week. Dang it!
Well, and Chauncey and I just watched it earlier, and you get that shot where Doc turns on, and you see the dates and I'm
Time
like,
circuits.
Yeah, the time circuit. It's like, and there's the shot everybody photoshops.
Everybody, and it makes me want to throw things every time someone does that. If you
I
want to hear
haven't
that
seen
rant.
one of those in a while, though.
Oh, I saw one in May, and
You've seen one recently? Wow.
You should
Yeah,
respond.
It was like
She does.
It was the end of May.
I
beginning
mean,
of
like-
June, and everyone was
I
like,
saw one of those.
Photoshop it. You should Photoshop it and post it
I-
every
I-
day. And just be like, today's the day. Today's the day. Today's the day. And then people will be like, wait a second.
I saw some in 2013, and I was like, no. It's 2015. Yeah,
That's the whole
I'm gonna
point.
rant about it anyway.
There's a reason
Like,
Doc
he goes-
says
he goes
30 years. Nice
30
round
years.
number.
number. Because Marty went back 30 years to 1955. And like, as I was watching this movie this weekend, I'm like, man, yeah, 1955 was 60 years ago now. And,
Yep.
oh,
Wow. Yeah.
So,
and, like George and Lorraine would be, well, I mean, we see him in the second movie, but that's not what we're talking about today, although
No.
we could reference it a little bit. But,
Huey.
so,
Although I think it's funny because we did watch it earlier, and as much as Chauncey loves this movie, and it's one of his favorites, he did not realize that is Huey Lewis with
Yeah,
a cameo.
really?
Yeah. Watched it just like a little bit ago. Was the stage that he plays on at the end is the same stage that he auditions on. I'm like, wait a second, that's the same place.
Well, yeah, he went to the same high school.
Because it's in the high school. It's
Yeah,
the same high school that his parents went to.
I think I was still using like
And,
thinking about it and
yeah.
just seeing it again.
Well, and I watched it over this weekend, and I noticed, like, there was one, like, I noticed, because, like, you see that opening, the opening pan shot of all the clocks in Doc's lab, and you see all the things and the breakfast machine, and it's, feeding the dog and everything, but the video camera, like, I noticed the video camera this time is sitting on Einstein's bed, and that's the video camera that he sends Marty to go back to pick up when he's on his way to the mall where he's doing the experiment. And I never noticed that before. It's like, hey, Chekhov's video camera.
Would you notice it was a JVC? Did you notice that?
Yeah, JVC,
yeah.
And it was that the red whatever it is casing on the outside and the whole thing. I'm like, hey, I know that video camera. Your video machine.
I think one of my favorite things about like these 80s movies like this is the product placement. I mean, I found a Tumblr thread that has like a listing of everything, and it's amazing how much they jammed in. And I'm wondering if they actually got money from these people that they, these companies. There's probably 20, 30 different brands in this movie.
I mean, watching it 30 years later, it looks like, the 1985 segments, it looks like it would be a period piece, even though it was made in the 80s, and then they do the period piece stuff of the 1950s. And I think what they were trying to show is, they're differentiating, because they have that opening bit where Marty is hanging on the back of various cars going to school, and it's like showcasing Hill Valley, what it looks like in 1985, and like you see, around where Doc lives, you see the garage, and then there's like, that street where there's like Burger King and all those other places. Burger King's the one that I always remember.
Yeah.
It's like front and center. And then when he goes back to 1955 and he finds Doc's house, and it's this mansion, and there's all the, it's really nice and picturesque, and there's not all these, fast food restaurants up and down the street. And he's just showing the difference between, okay, this is what it looks like in 1985 versus it's still the same place. It's just, this is how things change over time, over a period of 30 years. And it's not saying this is better or this is worse. It's just this is how reality is, and this is how things change. And I think my favorite part about Back to the Future is like it's not making any grand social commentary like, say Forrest Gump kind of tried to do with, talking about history. It is about this one family in this one town and how, how their lives change over time. But at the same time, it's like the story's very personal. It's about this kid who, he goes back in time and meets his parents in high school. And I've thought about this myself before, and I'm like, if I had gone to school with either of my parents, would I have been friends with them? And honestly, I love my mom and dad, the greatest mom and dad in the world. But my dad especially, I would have thought he was a self-centered jerk. I would not have gotten along with my dad in high school. Maybe it's different.
I might have gone along with my dad in high school because we share a lot of similar interests. Like we're both huge sci-fi fans. So I think we would have at least had that in common, probably. But
I think my parents' dynamic would be opposite of what George and Lorraine's was, because my mom was kind of the shy, awkward. I love my mom. Mom, I love you. She's kind of the shy, awkward sort of nerd. I'm using air quotes. And my dad was sort of the popular guy that he had a lot of. He was on the basketball team and the football team, and he did all these things. And I mean, he was a nice guy, and he's still friends with a lot of people from high school. And it was a different time, and I get that. I don't think I would have been friends with him.
Right. One thing I want to say about what you said though is you said that there's no Grand Central theming like Forrest Gump. I mean, they're kind of, I don't think you used the word theming, but like there kind of is though, because the whole. And they do it comedically, but the whole history repeating itself, is it's such a common thing throughout. But they ram that home through comedy, through sadness, through all kinds of things. Just the fact that history does repeat itself.
Unless something changes.
Yeah, I mean, unless something totally drastically changes. But yeah, like your future kid going back in time and saying, that one, go get her.
Yeah. Well, if Marty hadn't if Marty hadn't intervened, then they would have met like they said, but the outcome would have been the same, where George would have been this, gangly, unassured guy, and Biff would have been the egotistical jerk that he was, but because Marty did intervene and George stood up to Biff, that changed the future.
The dynamic between them.
Yeah, the dynamic between them changed. And in Marty's case, you know, it's a change for the better for as far as his family's concerned. At least his immediate family. As far as we know, his Uncle Joey is still in jail, but, you know.
Well, like, I guess what I mean is, like, when, you know how he has Biff crash his car because he's skateboarding around? Well, the same thing happens in Back to the Future 2 with hoverboards, right?
Yeah.
They do that with
Generation
several...
Xerox.
Yeah.
Well, because Marty is in Back to the Future too. I mean, it looks like I know we're going to talk about this, but like in Back to the Future 2, you have Marty Jr. is like he's like George Prime almost, like how George was before Marty went back, and he's the timid little scared little guy that he doesn't know what he's doing, and he gets bullied, and he doesn't stand up for himself and everything, and it's kind of. Where the heck did Marty get his confidence and this this sense of I want to do better, but he just doesn't know how? Because even in the beginning, when you see see him at home with his mom and dad and brother and sister, because even his brother and sister are like his brother Dave is like, Marty, you didn't need to go to that. You don't need to perform at that dance or that that concert, whatever it was he was auditioning for, because it's just a headache. And his sister is like, I'm never gonna meet anybody, and and his mom is all, don't nice girls don't call boys and all these things. And then at the end, you see Dave is in a business suit, and he's got this great career and everything, and his sister Linda, I guess her name, and she's like. Got all these boyfriends, and George and Lorraine are just stinkingly, adorably in love. And whereas before they merely tolerated each other, even though Lorraine was like, "It was meant to be, dear," and George is just like, not even
paying attention.
It's like Marty says, "Geez, George, it's a wonder I was even."
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. They're that where did the confidence go? He is definitely the anomaly. I mean, I think it's weird that he's such friends with Doc Brown. I mean, they never explain that.
There's a lot of things that they don't explain that I wish they did after watching this.
In the commentary, if you have the DVD commentary, which I used to have the DVDs, and then they've gotten lost in like a million different moves, and it made me sad. But in one of the commentaries, I think it was Robert Zemeckis explained that they kind of had a backstory where Marty was like messing around when he was a little kid. He was messing around in Doc's garage, and he like heard stories of this crazy mad scientist, and so he was curious and wanted to go see what Doc was doing. And Doc caught him, and Doc kind of took him under his wing as sort of an apprentice mentor, kind of gave him like a part-time job sort of thing, and they've just kind of been friends ever since. So maybe that's where Marty learned it, with his association with Doc, and kind of helping him out there. So it's kind of they don't, like, it would be nice to know the details, but they don't have to explain it, because it's like Marty just kind of walks into his garage. At the beginning, it's like, okay, I'm going to plug into the amplifier, and that opening scene, there's a lot of character establishment without a whole lot of explanation. Like, they just show it. It's like, and he's on the phone with Doc, and Doc's like, meet me at the mall at 1:15 in the morning, and then he's late for school, and he's got to rush in. So it's like it's just a masterful piece of storytelling, just crafted so well, and you don't even realize it until you've like watched it 100 million times, and then you finally start looking for all those little cues and how they set things up. And
it's one of those movies, like the character development you're talking about, and then the fact, like you said, that you kind of have to figure out through the grapevine, like where these relationships came from behind the scenes. It's like that kind of mystery is something that we took for granted probably in a lot of movies we saw back in those days, that today they just explain everything to the T, and everything's written out and explained. It kind of, I miss that mystery and abstractness about characters. And
and like you just accept it, that when they show up at the mall, when Marty shows up at the mall and Doc comes out of the van in the DeLorean and everything, and it's this big dramatic moment, and Doc's like, and Marty's like, Doc, Marty, and you just understand that these two are friends. They have that mentor-student relationship, and you don't need to go into a whole lot of backstory. Yes, it would be nice to know, but it's not particularly necessary. It would just be fun to know the details.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, like nowadays it's different, and we kind of expect that, but which I guess is a good thing why they're not going to ever reboot.
Not if Robert Zemeckis has his way. It'll be over his dead body.
Less him for saying so, because
that was
had all these.
Yeah, it was fitting that bit of news came out this week, and then we were like, hey, that works because we're talking about that, and he said that the movies cannot be touched as long as he's alive, and even after he's gone, he can have it written into his estate that these movies cannot be remade.
They would never even be close. The charm would never come back.
No, but I mean, with all the remakes that are they're literally remaking another Ghostbusters right now.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah.
So, you know,
it's like they're going through all the '80s stuff, like Big Trouble in Little China, and there was something else.
Well, the '80s and the early '90s. I mean, they're doing Gem and the Holograms. You know, we've got the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. It's like, quit screwing up our childhood.
Well, and like on April Fool's Day, I remember seeing an article, and this actually kept going after April Fool's, that they were going to do a Back to the Future Part 4. Oh my gosh, I lost it because I was like, you cannot mess with these movies. Like, just don't even try. Like if Robert Zemeckis hadn't have said that, I could totally see them this year having done like a Back to the Future remake where they go like it takes place in 2015, and then they go back to 1985 and try to do the whole thing the same way with maybe it's Marty, but it's like you cannot recapture the charm of Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox. You just can't do it. It's just not going to happen. And even like in the sequels, like I do like the sequels. I mean, they're really good, but they're just. I don't want to say there's something missing from them, but I love them. They're really great. They tell a different story, a different part of the story. But that first one is just there's just something about it it's a small time story. You're not trying to save the alternate universe or the alternate or trying to. And I guess part 3 is a little bit the same way, but. It's just this one kid who gets caught up in the time travel, and he's trying to help his parents, and poor George, trying to ask Lorraine out, and it's like, my density has bought me.
My favorite.
I don't know. You can't capture lightning twice.
Yeah, it's 1.21 gigawatts in a bottle.
So wait, talk about the lightning for a second. That is, to me, one of the most amazing non-MacGuffins that is a MacGuffin in a movie. It's like, why the heck? Or, it's like all these movies that, like, you need a solution. All of a sudden, we have this miracle solution, and we can get out of this. It's like we can train raptors all of a sudden. It's like, what the heck? And, I mean, a lot of times they do it well, and they explain it out. But thinking about the lightning bolt, it's like how... To me, it seems like Robert Zemeckis might have written this movie around the fact that a clock tower could have been struck by lightning, and you would know exactly when, because they would have the date of when it happened, and the clock itself tells what time. That's so clever. Yeah.
It really is, and it's not too far fetched. I mean, there's a lot of small towns that have a funny story like that. The Great Storm of Ot 5 or whatever.
Exactly.
And this one is. The clock tower was struck in 1955, and at the same time, they had the high school dance, like when Lorraine is telling them the story of when she and George met, and she's like, oh, it was the night of that terrible storm. Don't you remember, George? And I kissed him on the dance floor, and I knew that was when I was going to spend the rest of my life with him. So like this whole story revolves around 1 week in 1955, of when George and Lorraine first met. And then they go to the dance, and then they got to fix that. And then and by the way, there was the lightning bolt hit the clock tower.
Oh, and by the way, the Saturday before that, Doc Brown was hanging a clock in his bathroom, slipped and fell and hit his head, and came up with the idea for the flux capacitor.
Yeah, that was a big week in Hill Valley.
Yeah, and they didn't even know it.
A lot of little things that were not connected came together and to tell this really, really awesome story.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So I'm going to give you guys a couple of my favorite product placements and see if you can guess where they're shown in the movie.
Okay.
So Miller is shown a few times. Miller Lite. Where do you guys think you can remember where Miller Lite is shown?
I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I've seen it recently.
At the beginning when Biff comes to the house after he's totaled the car and he's like, all you've got, I have your car towed all the way here and all you've got for me is light beer.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing about that is there's a Miller Lite truck in let's see 1985. You see it first in Hill Valley when Marty and what's his girlfriend's name? Jennifer are walking around. And then that's like the 85 logo. And then when he goes back to 55, it's the 55 logo for Miller Lite. That was very cool to see. The other one here, let's see.
I'm sure that between Zemeckis and Spielberg that they made sure that, like logos and everything were historically accurate for 1955.
Yeah. Well, at first they didn't even want to use the DeLorean for the time machine for the car because they weren't sure they would be able to get much money for the product placement, but I think they overruled that. Said, no, it just looks cool. Now it's like one of the most iconic, I hate to use that word, but there it is, the most iconic time machines in all of pop culture. You've got the DeLorean, you've got the TARDIS, and H.G. Wells' time machine.
Right.
And I guess Bill and
Ted's phone booth. Other phone booth.
If you watch The Making, they were going to use a refrigerator. And then Zemeckis was like, well, we don't want kids locking themselves in refrigerators.
And then Indiana Jones did that.
Oh, yeah. Well, Indiana Jones 4. Did that really happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people tell me it did, but I don't remember. I've sort of blocked it from my mind.
Yeah.
So where in Back to the Future does Mountain Dew show up? This is a hard one, so I don't blame you if you can't remember.
Oh.
Mountain Dew?
This would be helpful if I've seen it.
It's not in Marty's room because I know he has a Pepsi can in there.
Yeah, he's a Diet Pepsi can. By his Panasonic clock.
Oh, Panasonic.
Oh.
You were so 80s.
It'd have to be in 1985 somewhere.
It is, yeah, because Mountain Dew wasn't around in 55.
In 55. Well, I mean, they didn't even have... Oh.
It's really hard, so
let
me know when you want me to...
Would it have been when they're having dinner and...
Nope.
At the beginning? Okay.
They do show Pop-Off vodka at that point. That's a really cheap vodka.
Yeah. Lorraine is... Yeah, I can understand why she's always drinking.
Yeah, the reason this is such an endearing thing that I remember is because my brother had this exact same hat. So there's a clue for you.
Okay, yeah. Is it... Now I can see it. Now I can see it in my mind, but I can't remember who had the hat.
So...
Oh, I just saw this movie yesterday.
She can't take it. The pressure.
It's okay. You're still a Back to the Future super fan. It's in 1985, and it's in the beginning when he's late for school, and he's skateboarding, but he's going from truck to truck.
Oh, yeah. The guy who drives the Jeep.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
The guy in the Jeep is wearing a Mountain Dew hat, and my brother had the exact same hat, and it's such an 80s hat, too. It's got the whole thick rope going across the brim.
Mm-hmm. I remember those hats. Not the Mountain Dew hat specifically, but the one with the rope on the brim.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man. Yep. Okay.
I like when
see it in my mind,
when Marty
at it.
when Marty walks into the diner when he's back in 1955 and
Like,
he's
what's
got to
with the
order
life preserver?
something. He's like, "Let me have a tab." And he's like, "You can't have a tab until you give me a Pepsi free." Like, I can't give you anything for free.
You want a Pepsi? You're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
Look, just give me something without any sugar. And he gives him a cup of coffee.
It's just funny
And
because
I
it's like
love
Pepsi free. It's like, you know, like I'm assuming like caffeine free.
Yeah.
Caffeine free Pepsi, I guess. So
Taste free.
yeah.
Then I love how it pulls back and he's like he's bent down, he's got his hand on his neck, and it reveals George is there doing the exact same thing, and then Biff comes in like McFly, and then they turn around and it's like they just have the exact same mannerisms in that moment, even though Marty is nothing like his dad, but it's still like, yeah, this is his dad.
Yeah. Hello, McFly. Think McFly.
McFly?
Biff.
You're George McFly.
Yeah.
Yeah, who are you?
Let's talk about Biff for a second. Biff is one of the most irritating villains, if you want to call him that, if you want to classify him as a villain. Absolutely irritating. And the sad thing is I've known people like Biff. And that just really gets under my skin.
Sure.
At the same time, he's incredibly entertaining, because there's that part where they're in the cafeteria, and he does the whole, why don't you make like a tree and
get out of here.
And every time, I just laugh, because he's such an idiot, and he can't even get the phrasing right, but it's still like this big, intimidating bully that nobody stands up to. Even the principal is like, I mean, he's standing there and he's glaring at him, but he doesn't do anything, even though, you know, he obviously, and you know, it would be interesting, speaking of backstories, to kind of know why that is, like why Biff thinks he can get away with all this stuff, and even that the principal doesn't really even say anything to him.
Well, we
you know, like,
well, with the third movie, we see Biff's ancestor, and he was kind of the same way. So apparently, it's partially genetic.
We also know that Biff's parents aren't present. You know, he lives with his grandma, and he's in high school. His parents aren't there, so we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I want George's backstory. I want to know why he was such a wuss up unto that point. Like, was he an only child?
Because he can't take that kind of rejection.
I know, but you know, it was like, was he an only child, or was he a child? Was he coddled a lot, you know, and sheltered so that, you know?
You can't miss science fiction theater every Saturday night.
Yeah.
You know, though, the guy that plays Biff is really probably channeling a lot of, you know, people that he's encountered. Because I've seen, like you said, you've known people like that. I have too, and it's like, it's just common personality traits of bullies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's the stereotypical bully, pretty much, and that's what sets the whole story in motion, and you know, it shows like how wussy George is, and you know, and Lorraine, like even in 1955, like she stands up for herself, but Biff still doesn't, you know, take the hint because he's Biff.
Yeah,
and even George is like, when Marty's trying to get him to ask Lorraine to the dance, and he's like, "No, I think she'd rather go with someone else." Who, Biff? And I'm like, "Are you serious? Like, you seriously think that she wants to go with that sleazeball?"
Yeah.
Like, I think she would. And then, you know, and then she goes, and then she likes Marty because he's the one standing up for her. But that's because she's his mom, and he doesn't want, you know, to see his mom get, you know, creeped on by this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, and that's part of Marty's personality, is like, he's not going to stand for that. And then, you know, Lorraine kind of gets the wrong idea, but of course, you know, she's not thinking, oh, this could be my kid from the future.
Well, no.
So think about this movie in the form of like a writing antagonist. Is Biff the antagonist, or is time, or is something else the antagonist, do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's Biff per se. I mean, he's just sort of he's sort of the secondary antagonist, just because
he's a roadblock.
That's probably a good way to put it.
Yeah, because when George is in the cafe gonna ask Lorraine out, and then Biff shows up to screw it all up. But it's really, you know, the whole movie, the whole story is like Marty getting back to 1985. Although for part of the movie, it almost feels like the B plot, because he sets in motion that his parents never had their first meeting, and now he's got to get them together before he can. But he's got a deadline because the lightning bolt is coming, and he can only, you know, that's the only lightning bolt he knows is coming for sure, and when and where. So it's like there's kind of two A plots going at the same time. But the time travel is almost the B plot, even though the movie is about time travel. And so I think you're right on in saying, like, you know, is time the antagonist? And I kind of think, yeah, because it's not a person per se. It's a situation that he finds himself in, and he's got to get his parents back together before he leaves. Otherwise, he will not have ever existed.
Right. Which is interesting, because there's a YouTube channel. I'll have to find the video, but they did like 5 interesting things about time travel, and it's all based on actual science. And one of those things is like the grandfather effect. Like, what if you went back in time and killed your own grandfather? What would happen? Would you cease to exist? And the way scientists understand it is, if you were to go back in time and kill your own grandfather, you would still exist. Otherwise, who would kill your grandfather?
Right.
It's a paradox otherwise.
Yeah.
So, as far as scientists are concerned, what Marty did, I guess because his parents still live, that may be different, but, you know.
Yeah.
In theory, what he did really wouldn't erase him out of existence. Maybe.
Yeah. Well,
depending on how you look at it.
My mom does not understand a lot of sci-fi. Bless her heart, she tries, but there's some things like she just can't get. But she can get Back to the Future because of the way that they kind of explain it, and the story is a lot more simple than, you know, like an episode of Doctor Who, the wibbly wobbly timey wimey whatever. Because I mean, I've never tried to show her an episode of Doctor Who because she just wouldn't get it. But
it can get complicated. You know, you take Back to the Future and the time travel aspect there, and you take like River Song's timeline from Doctor Who, and most people with River Song's timeline, their head would explode. I know I've tried to explain it to Chauncey, and it's just his eyes just got bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, what?
If you try to take the Back to the Future, just the first movie here, and look at like not the timeline the DeLorean takes you in, just it only happens on a Friday night to a Saturday morning, and that's it. You know, and like we spent a week in 1955, but that is simple enough, you know, but complex enough for the general audiences, right? And like you talk about the River Song timeline, that right there is like the time travel sci-fi knob cranked to 11. That's just a lot to take in and try to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and understandably so. But like you were saying, like from part 1 to part 3, it takes place over the course of a weekend, basically. Even though you do go back in time and forward in time and all these different things, but at the end of the day, Marty is still. It's still the next morning where he's taking his girlfriend to the lake in the truck.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
At the end of the movie.
In the Toyota.
In the Toyota, yes. In that hot 4x4.
I think this movie was probably my first introduction to like serious time travel.
Same,
Like they done like pseudo time travel on Star Trek Next Gen, but everything a lot of that, I think, was more like alternate realities, I guess, or something like that. But I think this was like my first exposure to like real time travel in science fiction.
Yeah.
I think the reason it's so like culturally significant is it is such a human story, and like you were saying earlier, it's the B plot that's the time travel part of it, or the the technology thing, and they don't emphasize it and explain things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have those few times when Doc is like showing how we're going to harness the lightning bolt and the power and to power the time circuits, and you have to be going 88 miles an hour. So they keep the scientific explanation like really simple so everyone can get it, but at the same time it's like almost plausible enough that it could work on a certain theoretical level. I mean, it's still science fiction, but I think Doc, being such a character just so grounded in science, really lends credibility to the idea that, okay, yeah, he seriously did invent time travel, and this is how it works, he's going to explain it, and it doesn't sound like a bunch of, hodgepodge gobbledygook, even though he's using words like gigawatts and the flux capacitor and all these things. Like, these are things that have been invented in order for him to explain time travel, which we don't have yet, so we're just going to assume that, yeah, there's going to be some new technical jargon and how these things work.
Yeah.
And making the time machine out of a car, because that's something that's we can understand, and that's like you travel through space on roads with a car, or in their version of 2015 you fly down the freeway. So why wouldn't you use a car to travel through time? You use it to travel through physical space easily enough. So it's that's something you can understand. I mean, time traveling with a refrigerator, that's just a little silly.
Yeah, I think this movie is one of the only movies I watch every time I want to go write my own movie or something, because it inspires. Because it's, to me, the concept is here's the 17-year-old lifestyle of 1985, and here's the 17-year-old lifestyle of 1955, and the only thing that's linking them in the story is time travel. Yet it's not as important as the lifestyles of the 17-year-olds. So it's like if you did the same thing, or something similar, where it's a commonality of life in two instances, like over time or over space or over some dimension, and then inject some science fiction thing that connects them in between, like interdimensional travel, or like what the TARDIS can do in some instances. And it's like that can make for a very, very good story, because you can have this like a lot of like B movie type plots, but they're not the thing in the forefront. They're just kind of happening in the background. People are attracted to it, and then you tell a human story that everybody can connect with. And I think that's just excellent. Yeah.
Well, and I remember when I was in, I was like maybe middle school, high school, and we had, we had Stars on our satellite or DirecTV thing, and Stars had, I don't know if they still do, but they had a bunch of different versions of the Stars channel. Like there was the main one, and there was like Stars Western, Stars Mystery, Stars Romance, Stars, I don't know if there was like a sci-fi one or not, but I remember seeing this movie on the Stars Romance channel, because one of the main plots is very much a love story of this kid trying to get his parents back together, and it's a very human story. It just has a science fiction element to it, like you're saying, and it's like these two kids who are high school sweethearts, and they got married and had kids, and it's like, how did that happen? And their son goes back, and he sees, he screws it up at first, and then he kind of has to make it happen so he doesn't disappear from existence. But it's still like, I mean, George and Lorraine love story, it gets me every time. Of course, I'm a sucker for a good love story, and one of the things I love about Once Upon a Time is they did an homage to this last at the end of season 3, of Back to the Future, where Emma goes back and basically does the same thing that Marty did, was screw up her parents' meeting, so she's got to get them back together, and it takes sort of a similar trajectory, but in kind of the Once Upon a Time world. So that that kind of inspired that. But it's so funny to see George trying to fall in love with Lorraine, or trying to get her to fall in love with him, and Marty is like thinking of all these different things that he could do, or all these different things that he could help George impress Lorraine, and the thing that happens is Biff gets in the way, and George finally, whatever, through Marty's pep talks or whatever, he finally just says, okay, enough's enough, and he lays Biff out when he's in the car with Lorraine, and he punches him out, and that changes everything. And it's like, Marty didn't have to orchestrate that. George had it in him the whole time. He just had to be shown that, yes, you can do it. And even Lorraine at some point, like when they're at the dance, and she's all, George, aren't you going to kiss me? And George is still kind of, oh, I don't know, whatever. So there's still that last minute, that one goofy guy that comes in.
I was laughing about him. He is so over the top because he's dancing with Lorraine, just laughing like crazy. It's like, what the heck is that guy doing?
I know, it's like, where did this guy come from? I mean, obviously you can't have Biff because he's, his time is done. He's done and over with. But there's still another sleazeball at Hill Valley High School.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Marty's collapsed on the stage because he's disappearing, and so there's just this really dramatic moment. And then Biff comes back in and shoves the crazy Ginger out of the way.
Right. But that right there is like to me that's the definition of an idiosyncrasy for like an 80s movie. Like the Brat Pack movies had this kind of stuff, it's like, what the heck is that character doing and where did they come from? I want to know more about that Ginger laughing guy. Yeah.
You're like, who is that guy? And he's like laughing maniacally because he's dancing with Lorraine. Yeah. And I'm just like, what is this with this girl? And then George comes in and shoves him away, and they kiss, and Marty's gonna live, and it's wonderful and awesome, and George and Lorraine are gonna dancing happily ever after, and then Marty plays Johnny Be Good and triumphant everything. It's wonderful.
So I've got a web page up here of Easter eggs for Back to the Future, but before I read these off that I didn't know, do you know any that you want to say? Does anyone?
Not off the top of my head though.
Rachel was pointing out one to me. You want to tell them about the mall?
Oh yeah, the name of the mall changes.
Oh yeah.
It goes from Twin Oaks Mall to
Twin Pines
or Twin Pine Mall to the Lone Pine because he destroys one of the pine trees.
Well, there is at the end of the movie when George's new book or when his book comes out, and you see the cover, and it's a match made in space, and it's this couple, and the creature officiating it is, quote, Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan, and it's based off of Marty in the radiation suit.
Right.
Which by that point in 1985, Star Trek has been on, and so is Star Wars.
Yeah, so I guess he couldn't call him Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan. But I just kind of wonder when those movies, when those finally came out, what George thought of. He's like, I met Darth Vader.
Right. Somebody should make that as a Vine. Just a 7-second thing. It's like him. It's just George McFly watching Star Trek or Star Wars. It's like, what?
Maybe George just assumed that the alien that the TV, like Star Trek and Star Wars, were influenced by that alien that had visited him in 1955.
Yeah.
Could be, or if he finally ever heard Van Halen.
Yeah.
Right.
Or that Van Halen song.
So
maybe he did. I don't know.
When Marty does knock over the pine, it's on. Remember what the name of the farm or the guy who runs the farm? Remember Doc?
It's Old Man Peabody.
Yeah, right.
His son's name is Sherman.
There you go. Yeah.
Like Mr. Peabody and Sherman. The cartoon.
Yep.
And you don't notice this unless you watch the credits.
Exactly.
Because you see the cast, and I saw that, and I was like, Sherman Peabody.
I didn't know that.
In the beginning of the movie, there's that long shot establishing Doc Brown's garage lair, and there's all the clocks, right? Yeah. And there's one clock with a guy hanging off the minute hand.
Oh yeah.
So that's foreshadowing to what Doc has to do at the end of the movie.
But it's also an homage to a silent film, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
To what is that
What's
movie?
his face? That's that silent film star that would do
Harold Lloyd.
Yeah.
I'm just reading off a website here.
Yeah.
Also, oh shoot, that's from Back to the Future too. We're not talking about that.
And we could touch upon the sequels a little bit, but I mean,
well, like the part that a lot of people remember is when the Jaws hologram comes out for Jaws 19. You know, the advertisement.
Yeah.
In Hill Valley, and the director is Max Spielberg, which is Spielberg's actual son that was born in 1985.
And then Marty says, "Shark still looks fake."
Yeah, right.
I didn't get that for years. But I still thought it was funny.
And then when Marty is turning the amplifier on, and you see the close shots of his hands in the beginning in Doc's lab, there's a label there, CRM 114. And that's an homage to Dr. Strangelove. There's one of the bombers' orders is called CRM 114 in that movie. It's also the name of the Jupiter explorer in 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's Robert Zemeckis, nerding it up right there.
yeah,
Oh yes. Oh yes.
very much so.
Well, I think one of my favorite parts of this is like when Marty comes into 1955 and he's kind of wandering around downtown Hill Valley and you see all the trappings of 1955 and there's the marquee at the movie theater, and I can't remember the name of the movie now, but starring Ronald Reagan or R. Reagan. And then later when Marty goes to Doc's and Doc is all, tell me, future boy, who's president of the United States? And he says Ronald Reagan. He goes off on the actor. I bet
Jerry Lewis is
Jane
vice
Wyman-
president.
Jerry Lewis!
Who's vice president? Jerry Lewis? I bet Jane Wyman is first lady. And what did he say was Secretary of the Treasury? I remember there was a story of Ronald Reagan when he saw the movie, when he is president, and he just thought it was so funny that they threw that in there, that Doc couldn't believe that an actor could become president. So I always liked that story. I just think,
Yep.
That is funny.
And every time I see Christopher Lloyd in anything, he's just always Doc Brown to me. Like he's even when he was in Roger Rabbit, and when he was the voice of Rasputin in Anastasia, and when he was in Angels in the Outfield, or anything else, it's like he's always going to be Doc Brown. I mean, he disappears into his characters pretty effectively, but I can still hear that. I still hear it in his voice, and I still see it in his face, and it's just like, yep, it's still.
Chauncey does a pretty good Doc Brown.
Well, when Rachel and I went to Disney World for our first, well, I guess it would have been our second, but our Halloween Horror Nights, it's a thing where you...
Well, it's not Halloween Horror Nights. That's Universal.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's Universal. It's Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. And we went there, and the first time it was just me checking it out, and the second time we actually dressed up. I dressed up as Doc Brown, and I was in character acting like Doc Brown all around Disney World, even to the cast members and stuff.
He walked into the gift shop there at Space Mountain and was like, "Excuse me, do you have any plutonium?"
Yeah. The train was going by like in the back of Disney World, and it's like this small area. There's like really nothing but just a little bit of scenery, and Rachel and I are just the only ones back there as like these hundreds of people in the train are looking at us, and I'm acting like Doc Brown, like waving my hands frantically. It was funny. We got it on video.
I have to share that. It's funny.
Yes,
He had the wig with the white hair.
People thought I was at the time though.
Dr. Horrible.
Dr. Horrible had just come out. Neil Patrick Harris was in it.
Yeah.
So the Disney cast members actually thought I was Dr. Horrible.
Oh. Okay, no offense to Dr. Horrible, but when you're cosplaying and impersonating Doc Brown, it was kind of feeling.
Yeah, I was like, I thought the hair would give it away. I had like a wig on with spiky white hair. Oh well.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that
You're
YouTube
lost.
video I posted on the 5-ish Fangirls Facebook page? The parody?
Not yet.
It's called Back to the Future Live, and it's done.
Oh, yeah, I watched that. It was funny.
It's done by these guys in Texas, in Austin, Texas, and if you've ever heard the phrase "keep Austin weird," these guys embody that. and they're called the War Room Collective, and they do basically guerrilla theater. Like they take and make all their props out of cardboard and markers and crayons and stuff, and they over exaggerate the acting to make it hilarious, and they try to illuminate like the weird idiosyncrasies of movies and stuff. And it's all guys, so if you have female characters, they're dressing in drag and acting all funny for that. You know, like the guy that plays Lorraine is just hilarious.
Has a beard.
Yeah, he's got a beard.
Usually the guy playing a woman usually has a beard.
Yeah. Like my favorite part of it, I was laughing while we were watching it tonight, is
Keep it PG.
yeah, well, it's like,
We have young listeners, keep it PG
Right.
as you're quoting here.
so they're in the car, you know, and you mind if we park Lorraine? Yeah, it's fine, whatever. And you know how Lorraine, she starts drinking, and he's like, "Where'd you get that?" And then she starts smoking. He's like, "Oh, you just smoke too?" And then the guys take it even further, and she starts doing drugs. They're like, "Oh, you doing drugs?"
Wow.
It's great. Those guys did Aliens on Ice. They did
We've done Home Alone.
Home Alone live. They
Die Hard.
this weekend in Austin they did Jaws live. So that should be funny. I can't wait to see that. Yeah, they did Die Hard.
They did Die Hard. Their Die Hard is hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, they toured Jurassic Park live. That was hilarious. But Back to the Future is one of those ones I watch every year. Back to the Future live.
I guess if you're gonna do a character in drag, you might as well go all out. In fact, there's a cosplayer that was at Salt Lake Comic Con, or I guess it was at FanX in January, and he was dressed as Slave Leia, and he's called Bearded Leia. Like he's got a beard, and you know it's the whole thing. And it's like
I've seen that.
You know, it's screen accurate costume itself, but it's got
Just not the body wearing it.
yeah, pretty much. And yeah, and he was in all kinds of poses. Like there was a Jabba the Hutt made of balloons.
Yeah.
Also that thing.
Yeah. This is just what it's one of those one of those movies that, you know, 30 years later is still entertaining. It's definitely, I mean, it's obvious it was made in the 80s, but it's aged well.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were watching the making of on the DVD, and they asked him, you know, if you could travel in time, would you go backwards or forwards? And Spielberg was like, I'd travel forward in time to see if this movie was successful. Like,
yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
This is the thing about this movie. It was not supposed to be like as big as it's become. It was just supposed to be like a cheesy, you know, B movie that would be totally forgotten. And I think of some of the movies from the 80s that, you know, people know about, but they don't really know about. Like it's not that popular. And I think that's the thing about the 80s is a lot of these movies that, I mean, you just didn't know what was going to become a, you know, big, huge blockbuster. And I think nowadays, like, they're trying to make big, huge blockbusters, and that's why we're getting all these reboots with all that stuff. And they're trying to, you know, to recapture that nostalgia rather than come up with brand new original ideas. Yeah, it's like they're trying to recapture the old glory, and people are going to see them.
Has scenes like some of the scenes in Terminator Genesis are recreated exactly from the first one.
Okay. So yeah, so they're like but it's all still like it's still a copy of an original, and I think that's you can't like. And I recently saw a couple episodes of Girl Meets World. It's like the series sequel to Boy Meets World, and I love Boy Meets World. I love that show, but I'm watching this Girl Meets World, and I'm like, you are trying way too hard. I mean, I see what you're doing. I see like you're bringing, you know, the characters and the actors from the original series in, but you just don't have that kind of charm that made the original good. And it's not the characters, and it's not, I don't know what it is. I was like, you're just the girl's kind of annoying. But, so that's like you know, you're banking a lot on nostalgia rather than, are you telling a good story? Are you telling something that I want to? Or do you have characters that I'm interested in? You know, are you doing something that is, that I can relate to. I mean, yeah, the story's about time travel, but it's also about a family, and it's about, the son getting to know his parents. Because at the beginning, when he first gets to 1955, and Doc is like saying, you should know your parents. What are their interests? What do they like to do together? And Marty's like, I don't know. They don't like to do anything together. They don't know nothing. And he realizes that he doesn't know his parents, but now he's got to get them together.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, yeah, it's got all these fantastical science fiction time travel stuff around it, but it's also this boy, this kid realizing who his parents are, and why you should care about him, and just kind of bringing him that much closer to him. And he's kind of, at the end, he kind of has this greater appreciation and affection toward his parents, because he spent so much time with them and trying to understand them and who they are and learning about them. And I think in that, it's the sci-fi stuff is sort of secondary, and that's what resonates with people, and that's why my mom can watch that into science fiction,
right,
very much. Like, she can understand the human aspect of it and just say, okay, the time travel, the time machine is just a way to get the story going.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what most people love about this movie and understand about it. And it's not so much time travel, it's seeing 1955 and seeing the nostalgia, or the history or whatever that it is that people love about it.
It makes it more realistic. It's like if you really did have a time machine, like, you would make mistakes and then have to try to fix them. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's just like, oh crap! We gotta hurry up and fix all this stuff, and this is gonna be impossible. And they put the weight of that on you instead of the stuff that you're trying to try to comprehend.
Yeah, it's not just a tourist going through time. It's you are an active participant in what is going on. And sometimes I wonder, do people remember that strange Marty kid that was at school for a week in 1955?
That is a plot hole that has bugged me for years. Is how does Lorraine not remember the dude she fell in love with before she fell in love with George?
Well, it's probably like,
she fell in love with George so completely she totally forgot about Marty.
Yeah, right.
And then she named her youngest son after him.
That's another thing I was telling Rachel, is like, she's like, Marty, what a nice name. And then she names her third kid Marty. It's like, wait a second.
I explained to him that sometimes when expecting parents, they have a list of names, and they may not necessarily pick one. They wait until the child is born and see what they look like and see which name fits.
Yeah.
And obviously with his brother, Marty did not fit.
But Bob did.
But Bob did. Well, I'm sure he's probably named Robert.
No, it was Dave.
Oh, was it Dave? Okay, Dave, sorry.
Yeah, Dave, Linda, and Marty are the kids.
And obviously Linda,
and maybe it was just she just filed the name away because she was just so in love with George, and she was very, very, very into this new relationship, and that's what she was focusing on, and just like, okay, that guy's gone, and he said goodbye, and it kind of sounded like, that he was leaving, and he's got to go, and I don't know what George and Lorraine were thinking when he was saying goodbye. Well, aren't you coming back? But Marty makes it sound like, no, he's not coming back, and we know he's not coming back because he's going back to 1985.
That should be another 7-second vine. Is when he tells him about how he's like, go easy on your kid when he catches the rug on fire. It's like, that should just be another 7-second vine. Is like, they walk in the room, the kid's got the rug on fire, and they're like, oh, all right, it's okay.
Yeah. And I kind of wonder if Marty ever tells his family, because at the end, Jennifer gets it, because at the end of the third movie, and because she went to the future, and she gets it. So, they probably talk about it, those two. I'm like, did he ever tell his parents, did they ever talk about that mysterious guy? Or did he ever bring up, so, remember when you two first met? You remember this guy named Marty, and you thought his name was Calvin Klein? And when all this stuff happened in 1955. And they're like, yeah. And Lorraine's like, I fell in love with him, and I even kissed him, and I thought he was my brother. Of course, after the DeLorean's destroyed in the third movie, spoilers, over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It would kind of be hard to prove that he actually did travel in time, but it would just kind of be funny for George and Lorraine to kind of realize that was Marty. That was our son, and then Lorraine to realize she kissed her son.
Probably feel about the same way Leia did.
Yeah. I wonder if speaking of, Jennifer, that, when Doc appears at the end of the first movie and he's like, we gotta do something about your kids, and Jennifer just gets in and sits on Marty's lap in the DeLorean like it's not the strangest thing. And I wonder if maybe her exposure to Doc through Marty just made her kind of like, that's crazy Doc Brown. And
she doesn't even know it's a time machine.
Yeah, but I mean, she's never all like, oh, whoa, what's going on here? And, she never stops to asking questions. She just gets in and, Doc's all like, okay, let's go, and
that's how they wrote a lot of women in the
stride.
80s. Like, women characters in the 80s, sometimes they just, they don't give them realistic reactions to things. It's like, oh, I'll just go with it. It's like...
Yeah.
That's
I'd be like, hold on a second.
Yeah, that's changed nowadays. You look at female characters in movies now.
I would be like Marty when he originally sees it. He's like, you made a time machine out of a DeLorean.
Well, it's kind of like Danny Pink and Clara, because Danny is like, well, at first Danny's like, who is this doctor? What's all this? And then by the end of the season, he's like, yeah, we'll just go with it. It's a time machine. I mean, he doesn't quite get it. Although Jennifer does have that reaction at the beginning of the second movie, because she's in the car and she's already time traveled. She's just having that delayed reaction of, this is a time machine. We're in the year 2015, and her reaction is, we can see our lives together. We can see, are we married? Do we have kids? Do we have a big house? All these things. I mean, it's a little different going forward in time, because you would think, okay, I want to see what my life is like. What happened to us, and what did we do, and all these different things. So she did have that reaction. I mean, the thing is with Back to the Future is they never intended to make a sequel, and they even said that if they had intended to make a sequel, they wouldn't have put Jennifer in the time machine, because they had to figure out what to do with her in the future, and that kind of created, when they were writing the sequel, they're writing part 2, it kind of created a big snarl, like, okay, like, what is she gonna do while Doc and Marty are taking care of this other thing with their son, with Marty Jr. and Griff. It's like, what is she going to do? And she ends up, at her house, where her lives with future Marty and all their kids and all the things that are going on there. So she's kind of having her little freak out there on her own throughout the first part of the second movie. So it comes, it's just not right away.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I really want a Mr. Fusion home energy reactor.
I do too. I think that thing is awesome.
It looks like they sell them on the internet. They have replicas.
Again, that was one of those things that I didn't get when I was 5-6 years old and watching these movies over and over. I'm just like, it's just the thing that's on the back of the car that makes it go.
I love that it's like white and black plastic, like it's Black & Decker or something.
Yeah. I mean, basically, in part 2, their version of 2015 is just futuristic 1985. And they weren't trying to predict anything, because they were just like, there's no way they could do it. So it's just like, take what you have today and transpose it like Jetsons into the future, sort of a thing. And sort of thing. And that, I mean, they were just trying to be outrageous and goofy and sort of thing. I mean, and clearly nobody ever anticipated the internet. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had, physical newspapers and,
It's we know the hoverboard does exist now, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hoverboard does exist, and they kind of do have like a mobile news crew, although it's kind of like a little robot that comes out and takes pictures and writes the news for them. So that's kind of sort of true.
Mm-hmm. And Nike did come out with those the self-lacing shoes.
Funny.
Nike actually did create those shoes. And like,
oh really?
Yeah,
self-lacing shoes.
You had to get a pre-order. They're really expensive. Let's say like $1,100.
Well, yeah.
I believe it.
Wow, yeah. and everything in 80s is in a museum.
Yeah.
And the lady's like, if you're interested in dust, we have a quaint little piece from the 80s. It's called the Dustbuster. I'm like, I remember those.
Those were big in the 90s, too. I was watching Home Improvement the other day, and they had a Dustbuster on that.
I wonder whatever happened to those. Why they don't sell them anymore. That'd still be kind of useful.
I think the
Dyson took over.
The patent expired, so like anybody could do it. These things only last for like 20 years.
I could take one of those things and run it over my computer keyboard. I wouldn't have to deal with this canned air crap.
I think I have one in the closet somewhere. Oh, attic.
That's so funny.
If you find it, take a picture.
We had one.
I don't think we ever had one.
No?
No.
Maybe.
Not that I remember. I don't think I paid that much attention to our vacuums when I was a kid. So.
I know I had one when I was a kid because I used to chase my little sister with it.
They were good for that. That's
Oh my.
Back to the Future.
Yeah. Oh. There is I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but the TV show Ace of Cakes from Food Network, the one in Baltimore, the cake shop in Baltimore that does like the crazy shapes and everything, and they made a DeLorean, a cake DeLorean. I think it was for the 25th anniversary of Back to the Future. And they brought it to a party, and the cast was there. So like Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd and all them were there. But they made the DeLorean out of cake, and they figured out a way to do the fire, the two streams of fire right behind it is awesome. So
Nice.
So I just looked up on
Awesome.
eBay. You can get a vintage 1991 Black & Decker Dustbuster for $65.88 plus $16 shipping.
Wow.
there you go.
Wow.
With,
Probably not that expensive in the 80s.
No.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the Back to the Future. There's a Back to the Future trilogy bundle on iTunes, and I'm looking at it, and it has the release dates. And Back to the Future Part 3 was released when I was only a few weeks old.
Oh wow.
It was released, I think, if I remember right, because I'm looking at the date, 9 days before I was born. I think, something like that. That sounds about right, because it says it was May 25th. So,
Yeah.
that's about right.
It's good. It was a big time to have those out. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys like at your conventions, if you've ever seen it, but they came to Salt Lake Comic Con one year. The Michael J. Fox Foundation, they actually have. Well, I don't know if it's the original DeLorean or a replica of it, but they have it that goes to different conventions, and you can get your picture taken sitting in the DeLorean. When they came to Salt Lake, I think it was like $20 to get your picture, or you could just stand outside the rope and take a picture with your phone for free. And they have the backdrop of the clock tower.
That at Fan Expo.
Yeah.
So did you guys know that
I think they came.
the DeLorean, the company DMC, still exists?
I did not know that. I thought they'd gone bankrupt because the cars were.
it was another company that took over the name.
Yeah, so like they did
Okay.
go bankrupt because they actually got in trouble because the CEO was he got in a criminal situation, like you think he was selling drugs or something. And then after the company went up for sale, or basically was going to go bankrupt or go up for sale, another guy bought it and bought all the parts that they had in inventory, and it's now in Texas. And you can actually still buy original DeLorean parts, and that you can buy a full DeLorean. I mean, they cost exponentially more nowadays, but you can get the actual original year and they have all the parts there, and they try to continue to make them the same specs, but it's all handmade or like limited time only kind of stuff. But
I think I read on Wikipedia there's like 6,500 original from the when they were first made,
right,
that are 30 plus years old that are still in existence.
Yeah, it was like the stainless steel thing was the big revolutionary like thing when it first came out, and that's like, you know, when Doc says, you know, the stainless steel construction helps it.
Helps the flux.
Yeah, helps the time. Helps the flux capacitor run through it, and you know, it's that kind of, you know, scientific gobbledygook that I guess makes sense. So that's why they used it, you know, because the studio, like I said, they wanted to use a different car or a different car company so they could get the product placement. But there's like, no, the DeLorean makes sense for the story, and I'm like, and I can't imagine them wanting to do, you know, using any kind of car, like, you know, a Ford Taurus or something for a time machine, because you got to have the doors that go up and make the sound and the whole thing. I mean, obviously Doc has made his own modifications so it doesn't look like you know, the DeLorean from before, but it's kind of become like the TARDIS is you know, the 1960s police box, where now it's not a police box when you see it, it's the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And even and the British police, whatever it is, they've even lost the copyright to the image because the
in
TARDIS.
Like 90s, the Metropolitan Police lost the rights to the image to the BBC because of the TARDIS being so, that image being so iconic as the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the DMC, you know, DeLorean hasn't lost the image copyright, but when you see a DeLorean nowadays, you think Back to the Future, like you just do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everybody knows it as. And like, I saw a picture, someone on Facebook, I don't know if it's like just a picture floating around of a DeLorean just out on the road somewhere, and someone took a picture of it, like, oh my gosh, look what I saw. I mean, and obviously it doesn't have all the parts on the back or that made the DeLorean in the movie look like the time machine, but it's like, it's DeLorean.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would buy a DeLorean if I had more money than I knew what to do with, for sure.
Yeah. I don't think I would drive it around. I think I would just have it as a showpiece. I mean, I might take it out for a spin like once or twice a year, but it would be like...
You would have to drive it, because I'm pretty sure there's stick shifts. At least the one in Back to the Future is.
Yeah.
So.
One of the guys I follow on YouTube, he's an engineer for Google. That's his daily driver, is a DeLorean that he's outfitted like completely original, and it looks amazing.
Nice.
Wow.
The other thing I want to say about YouTubers is there's a guy on YouTube called Adam the Woo who does urban exploring, and he sometimes gets permission, sometimes he doesn't get permission. That's just the nature of a urban explorer. And he finds movie sets, you know, and he did the Back to the Future urban exploring series. If you go to his channel, it's Adam the Woo, like WOO. He finds the Burger King, he finds Doc's garage, you know, he goes sequentially through the movie. And he even got access to the Universal lot where they made Hill Valley, and he found the clock tower, which is actually a building inside of a building now. So they somehow made it bigger for some other movie, but they still use it to film stuff. And all these locations, you know, most of them are still there. But definitely encourage you, if you're interested into seeing these locations, what they look like nowadays, look up his Back to the Future video. It's hilarious because he has a friend with him, and they actually try to, like, cornely act out what was happening for the scenes, like the part where George falls out of the tree because he's a peeping Tom. They actually try to get up in the tree and do all that.
Oh my!
It's funny.
Nice.
We'll put a link to that in the show notes.
I think it's funny the Burger King's still there. It's updated to a modern Burger King, but it's still there.
Hey, you know, flame broiled sells.
Yep.
I guess.
Yeah.
The King.
Burger King's still around, so might as well.
Yeah. That's funny. Alrighty. Anybody have any closing remarks about Back to the Future?
Just go watch it again. It's just fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So make sure you wear your bulletproof vest when you get back to 1955 or 85.
1985.
Yes. 85.
Or 1855.
Yeah. Biff Tannen's.
1885.
1885.
Yep.
That's what we have to do next, Rachel.
100 years is another nice round number.
Back
Yeah.
to the Future 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
I wonder if anybody's ever made a train that looks like the one from Back to the Future 3.
Probably. Maybe not full size,
That
but
would
I'm sure
be-
people have made models.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. Did you guys ever watch the animated series of Back to the Future?
Yes.
It was okay. It was like, I mean, it was post Back to the Future Part 3, so they have just all these random adventures, and they, instead of the DeLorean, well, they do. I think they do have the DeLorean, but they also have the train. And so, like, they have Doc's kids, Doc and Clara's kids, Jules and Vern, and they're like in all sorts of hijinks. So they're not necessarily the main characters, if I'm remembering this right, but Marty's still in it, and Jennifer and Doc and Clara and Einstein, and I think that's it. And so it's just kind of they do a lot of little time travel side trip things. I mean, it's typical. You know, they had a lot of animated spin-off 80s, or spin-off cartoons from movies from the 80s and the 90s, like Ghostbusters had one.
Yes, I love the Ghostbusters one.
Yeah. I can't remember the other ones. But anyway, I remember the Back to the Future one. I watched it as a kid. I don't remember if it was any good, but it was there. It existed.
I'm the same way. I kind of want to rewatch it, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, you can find it on YouTube.
I don't know where I'd find it. Yeah,
YouTube.
Probably on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, I don't, you know, I don't consider it quote canon. It's just, it was a thing for the kids.
Yeah.
But just thought I'd mention it real quick.
Well, thankfully,
Saturday morning cartoons,
yeah.
good stuff.
Oh, by the way, has anybody ridden the Back to the Future ride when it was in Universal Orlando, Florida?
I did.
I never got to ride it.
Nah, I've never
I've
been
seen,
to
like,
Universal
the
Orlando.
Video.
Yeah, you can find video of it. It's not there anymore. It's The Simpsons now.
Yeah.
I do remember
But
seeing commercials for it.
Yeah.
Well, so there's some interesting
like-
theme park history to it in that I was reading about it, and like if you look at Walt Disney World, you know, it was all about Walt Disney's vision and everything and how it all came to be, and then Universal was trying to find their footing as a number one competitor for Disney World, and Steven Spielberg had stopped by when they were working on a King Kong animatronic for Universal, and they were having trouble funding Universal Studios theme park. But when Steven Spielberg saw this animatronic, he was so into it that he decided that the Back to the Future ride should happen, and they talked about it and then put it together, and then all this funding started flowing into the Universal Studios theme park because of that. It probably wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Back to the Future ride, as it does today, because they probably would have, folded just because not enough funding.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Steven Spielberg went on to make the E.T. ride and
Jaws,
and just its history now, and that's kind of the genesis of that theme park and why it's Disney's number one competitor for tourist attractions and resorts. So, Back to the Future played a big role there. Actually, we were at PopCon last weekend. I met an engineer he built a ride he was showing off there. It looked like a Halo drop pod, and he was talking to me about his uncle who worked at Universal and said that when they were programming the ride for Back to the Future, they had to program frame by frame how that thing was going to work as a simulator. And then finally they, piloted some sort of like puppeteering system that could record so that some guy could just sit there and watch the film and like move some levers, and then the entire simulator would move and they could just record it and rehearse it and then like perform it. And then what it would be is, what you'd ride is what this person like performed on like a robot. And then it would just really interesting how all this stuff came to be before computers were what they are nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember them advertising Universal Studios, and because what movie was it that we had the VHS for? I think it was Jetsons, the movie. And they like had this whole big, I know, and they had this whole big 10-minute thing like at the end of the trailers before the movie actually started, and it was basically a promo for the Back to the Future ride plus a few other things, but Back to the Future was the main centerpiece of what they were selling, and I was just like, okay, so this is like Disney World, but not Disney World because it's Universal.
Yeah,
I mean, because I was like, I don't know how old I was, not that old, 6, 7, 8 years old, and so still trying to just understand the concept of how all these things work. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember watching Nickelodeon and they just advertised Universal Studios like crazy. And the King Kong ride always seemed larger than life to me. I wish I would have been able to go down there.
Yeah.
Before it was
gone. I mean, I'd watch Nickelodeon and they would say, this was filmed in Universal Studios, Florida, and at the Nickelodeon, right. Whatever the thing was.
Mm-hmm.
That's something else that Adam the Woo investigates is the actual, like the big studio that you always see on Nickelodeon with the fountain out front with the slime fountain.
Oh, yeah.
That's still there.
I remember that.
It's all painted over.
Why slime? Yeah.
Because it's fun.
Yeah. Summer's Double Dare.
That's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
Favorite Nickelodeon television shows.
Oh God.
I think I love the toy commercials back then more than the shows.
Hey, save it for when we cover that in another podcast.
I'm just contributing to the tangents and squeeze.
Yeah, I know. Oh.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, unless anybody has anything else to contribute.
I want to
Where
say
we're going, we don't need roads.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Brittany?
I was going to say, I know they're not canon, and I know a lot of people write them off and say that, I don't know, but I recommend, like, I've read some really good Back to the Future fan fiction of, like, how Marty and the Doc met. And I don't actually remember the names of the ones I read, but they're really good. And I read some really good ones about Doc's backstory of his childhood. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
they're really good.
Well, because they do get into that, like they touch on it in the third movie when he's talking to Clara about when he was a little boy and reading Jules Verne and that's how it got him interested in science. So the backstory, there's bits and pieces of the backstory that are there. It's just it's just what's relevant to the story going on right now. And so it's like maybe someday they'll do a big here's all the backstory, or maybe they don't. Maybe they just are like, oh, you fill that in on your own.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Occasionally,
I think nowadays,
occasionally
you'll
probably get answers, because I know I saw another article where I think it was Robert Zemeckis answered some fan questions about the third movie about why they didn't refuel the DeLorean. They didn't steal fuel from the DeLorean that was already back in the 1800s. And it's because any car person will tell you if you're going to store a vehicle, you drain it completely.
Yes, you do.
And also because it had been
also
because if a car has been sitting for so long, eventually you just don't want to touch it. You don't want to move it.
Mm-hmm. Because so we're having a flashback of traveling the vortex tangent.
Yeah.
Because I remember them tangenting about this.
Yeah.
And I was yelling at my iPod saying, you can't store the fuel because it goes bad.
Yeah.
I know this because I grew up on a farm and we have a lot of old vehicles. And sometimes we're all like, hey, when's the last time this truck was driven? Is there still fuel in it? If not, we're not doing this.
Right.
or I've tried to drive vehicles that have old fuel in them. They won't go.
Yeah.
It just won't happen.
Yeah.
So I remember yelling at them, and then I think they finally got it because I had my feedback for that week composed, like saying this is not gonna work.
I remember Sean like bringing like one of his copy of the movie and was playing it during an episode, like improving it.
How does this work? It doesn't. But yeah. So, you know, I think, and maybe I want to say Harry Potter had a lot to do with this, although I don't know that I would go that far to say that's where it originated. Is that nowadays people want to know backstories for everything in fiction, and J.K. Rowling had all kinds of. Well, maybe it went with Tolkien because he was so thorough with his backstory. So maybe I'm wrong in saying in pinning it all on Harry Potter, but I think it's kind of become more of a mainstream thing to, like, you know, what did this character, this side character, what were they thinking? What's this character's backstory? Whereas Back to the Future was made, that was not so much a consideration. It was just like, okay, we'll just throw this line of dialogue in here, and that's enough. People can draw their own conclusions. Move on. We got to get on with the story. You know. So I don't know. Maybe I was just throwing that theory out there. If someone wants to, you know, write in and complain at me for saying that, go for it. Because I'm just speculating just as much as anybody else is.
Well, I've noticed like a lot of fantasy stories have a lot of backstories for the characters. For the most part.
Well, with fantasy, you're building a whole new world.
Yeah.
Most of the, and you have to, you know, craft your own rules and how things work and all that kind of stuff. So, you know.
This is heavy.
Now I think.
Yeah.
Huh?
Weight has nothing to do with it.
I said this is heavy, and Rachel's like, weight has nothing to do with it.
There's that word again, heavy. There's
Something wrong with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Gravitational pull. There's a ritualistic ceremonial. Wait, no, there's a rhythmic ceremonial ritual going on this Saturday. I totally butchered that. We were talking before we started recording about how there are so many quotable lines in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
I remember when I was little, because I don't know how old I was, but I remember like wanting to buy a vest to use it to go swimming because I thought it was an actual
life preserver.
Yeah, life preserver.
You want me to make a donation?
Dork thinks he's gonna drown.
Vest, you can go to Old Navy every fall and winter, and there you can buy as many as you want. So.
Yep. There you can do Marty McFly cosplay.
Yep.
Which I have seen. I saw a picture of a family who did Back to the Future cosplay, and there was the little kid was Marty, and the mom was Lorraine, and the dad was Doc Brown, and the little sister. Oh, no, it wasn't little sister, but somebody was dressed as Einstein.
No.
It was cute. It was really good.
That guy.
I wish I could find it again.
That guy at the end, he's like crazy drunk drivers.
I know, and it's so funny when Marty gets back. He's like, "Oh, everybody looks great, even the homeless bum on the bench." And that's the funny thing in alternate crapsack universe 1985, and Marty runs into the homeless guy again. He's the only thing that hasn't changed. Yeah. Everything else has gone straight down the tubes, but that guy, nope, he's still the same.
Oh my. Alrighty. I'll probably wrap up here. It's getting late.
I think. Yeah,
as usual. So this has been fun, and
this has, and happy 30th anniversary Back to the Future. You've been a wonderful movie, and we love you so very much. And it inspires us talking for almost or probably over 2 hours about you. And
that's
if you
power of
listeners out there in listener land, if you would like to chime in about your thoughts on Back to the Future or any other topic that we have discussed on this podcast
or are going to discuss,
Or, yeah, this is,
Next week.
past, present, and future.
Next week, Fandom Christmas.
It's San Diego Comic-Con, so if there's anything you wanna point out or discuss or link to, feel free to send us feedback at 5ishfangirls@gmail.com is our email address. Our website is the 5ishfangirlspodcast.blogspot.com, and there you will find places to leave comments on our show notes.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find links to our iTunes, to our Twitter, our Facebook, our Tumblr, our Pinterest, our Instagram, our YouTube page, and all those places you can find us and follow us on wherever social media you prefer. And you can leave us comments, you can ask us questions, suggestions, tangents, criticism, although if it's really mean, we'll ignore it. And you can also donate to us at patreon.com. There's links to that on our... Get in touch with us. Let us know how we're doing. Leave us a review on iTunes if you feel so inclined. That would be great. And we love y'all. We're still having fun after 52 episodes. We're at 52, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah. Give us a ring. Why don't you?
Yeah.
So to speak. Even though we don't have a phone number. Drop us a line.
Yeah.
And don't make us wait till 1985 to open it.
Yeah.
The consequences will be disastrous.
Very much so.
We have to go back around. We have to go back around the horn.
Yeah.
And get back to 1985. Need your help to get back to 1985.
1.21 gigawatts!
How can I be so careless?
Oh my.
So anyway.
Okay. Well, with that, let's sign off for this week.
This is Brittany and Belvedere saying goodnight.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Mitch saying goodnight from Kitchener, Ontario.
This is Chauncey from Indianapolis saying Great Scott.
And this is Rachel, also in Indianapolis, Indiana. I think we're going to make like a tree and get out of here.
1.21 gigawatts!
Been listening to the 5ish Fangirls Podcast. Any and all movies, books, games, and other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied.